Hello and welcome back, cuties. So today we're going to be taking a look at Lan Yan for the first time together because I actually haven't seen much from her yet. But I just know the general rule of her playstyle, and I also think her design is very cute. I really I really like what they did with all the silver. It's very reminiscent of the moon actually, which makes sense with the design of her weapons as well. So honestly, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with this video. I was thinking of making it a guide, but it would take a little long to build her since I don't have the materials ready, so I just figured I'm going to make this on the fly, you know? While I'm building the character, you guys will also get to see me build her, and we'll just figure out together what she needs instead of just me explaining it to you all. I know that she can work both as a shielder and as a driver, as they're called. You know, nerdy Genshin terminology. Basically, a driver is it's like a main DPS, so a character you use on field, but they don't really do most of the damage themselves. Instead, they're just attacking to cause the abilities of other characters off field to go off and cause damage as well. So they deal damage themselves, but they mostly help other characters do damage while being on field. And from what I've seen, I think she actually does have a lot of potential as a driver, so we're going to start by taking a look at her trial, which I have actually already done, but for the sake of understanding how she works together, we'll do it again. So let's take a peek of what this cutie does. I've already mentioned her design, it's really pretty. And also, from what I've seen of her personality, she seems very silly and bubbly, and they love girls like that, they're so cute. But that aside, let's take a look at her animations actually. Very graceful, I like it. Her effects are really satisfying, which works well for a driver because obviously you're gonna be attacking with her on field, which means you're gonna get used to seeing these animations, but they do look good, so that's nice. Her elemental skill, oh, it's like a dash forward, and that gives her the shield, of course. Okay. I have seen how that looks in combat. It brings her up in the air, so I guess unless you're hitting an enemy, it plays a different animation, which is interesting. Oh yeah, let's take a look at the build the trial gave her. That'll help us get an understanding on how you should build her as a character. So starting with stats here, actually gave her an upgrade rate to crit. Only 145 energy recharge, but I think that's actually fine if you run her as a driver because she'll be on field more, which means she'll be getting more energy. And a lot of elemental mastery and attack as well. I know that her shield is stronger based on how much attack she has. So I'm guessing you want to give her as much attack as possible. And they did give her the Viridescent Banner set, which makes sense as a driver. Okay. Well, it looks like as a driver you might want to go for a mix of elemental mastery and attack for her. But I'm not too sure about that yet because sometimes when it comes to anemo drivers like Heizu or Wanderer as well as one, it really depends on the type of character and what you want to do with them. because Wanderer works best as a crit DPS, which means he wants to be hitting big numbers with those crits, while Heizu works better as a elemental mastery driver. So instead of doing traditional damage with crits and stuff, he'll be doing more damage with the swirl elemental reaction, which scales on elemental mastery. So that means that the more elemental mastery you have, the more damage the swirl reaction will be doing. So considering Lan Yan is a 4-star, she may be better off with a lot of elemental mastery instead of any crit, but I think we'll talk more about that later. I'll have to see a little and experiment. For now, let's just try out how she plays in the trial, just get an understanding of how we play her. So I see that they gave us an electro charge team, which is interesting. Further incentivize her playstyle as a driver. Okay. Her elemental burst seems to be a grouping ability, which is nice. That's something that Heizu actually Heizu's burst does group enemies. But regardless, being able to group enemies is very important for anemo characters, since it'll help them cause more swirl attacks. Okay, honestly this team they gave you is pretty top tier. All things considered. It's a very fun electro charge team. So let's continue actually. I want to see a little more from her. It seems like she is a driver, but she won't be attacking as much as I thought she would be. Maybe I'm just using her wrong. I like the animation that plays for her elemental skill, but one problem with it is actually the fact that it brings her up in the air. While that does look cool, it does mean that it'll take a little longer to attack because of that. So you're gaining style points at the cost of efficiency as a character. But that's fine, honestly. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Okay. So, she seems very fun actually, I'm not gonna lie. Drivers are typically very fun, but her animations really don't limit the type of character she is. I think they did a good job, I can tell. So let's think about how we build this cutie. During the cut, I actually checked out her talents and percentages, and I also checked out the current weapons we have and the artifact sets just to see what would work best on her. And if my calculations are correct, at least as a driver, which is how I'll be building her, this should be the stats that are optimal on her. So obviously you want to get as much elemental mastery as you want on her. This is the amount I was able to get, 887. And the other important stat is energy recharge. So 151 is actually probably even more than you need, because she will be on field, which means she will be collecting those energy particles directly, so she'll be getting her burst up faster, especially since her burst only costs 60 energy, and 60 energy is a pretty low cost for a burst generally, so getting her burst will be really easy. Honestly, this energy recharge is overkill. 140, 135 even should be pretty much enough to get you up the burst every time. But other than that, you do want to make sure you get as much attack on her as possible, even as a driver, because it will still make her shield more effective, which will help with being able to use all of the elemental skills on your team, and while she's attacking, it'll protect her, so you won't get interrupted, and you'll be able to get more damage in. We love getting that damage in. But let's just talk about her weapons real quick. Sacrificial Fragments, I think, is her best in slot as a driver. Not only because it gives her elemental mastery, but at C0 at least, for a C0 Lan Yan or anything below C6, it's actually the only way she can get 100% uptime on her shield, which means that 100% uptime means that she'll always be able to use that shield, because her elemental skill actually gives her the shield, but it has a longer cooldown than the shield duration, and also it moves her up in the sky and a little further back, so it actually does put her a little out of position, which in practice it means that you'll have even less uptime on that shield than you may think. So this works very well on her. It'll pretty much mean that she'll be able to have that shield up at all time. So if you're using her as a driver, or honestly even as a shielder, I would recommend giving her this weapon unless you have her at C6, because the C6 will give her an extra charge of elemental skill. But that aside, obviously if you're building her as a pure shielder at C6, I'd recommend just giving her any weapon with attack, like Skyward Atlas, or really any weapon that gives her a lot of attack is fine, while also making sure she gets a lot of energy recharge. But I'm not going to touch on that because that's not how I'm going to build her. Instead, we're going to talk about her artifacts. So I was torn between Desert Pavilion Chronicle and Viridis Envenerer for her, and I do think they're both viable, but in different ways. So if you're giving her Desert Pavilion Chronicle, then it's because you'll be building her as a crit DPS, which is a lot harder because getting crit is impossible. Good luck if you're trying to build her with crit, but if you are trying to build it with crit to deal crit damage, then this is probably the best for her instead of Viridis Envenerer, because it does give her extra attack on her normal attacks, which, while the burst and skill will be doing the most damage, you still will be hitting a lot of normal attacks and charge attacks as well if you use those. So if you're building her with crit, this is the best. However, I will be building her with elemental mastery, which I think will not only be more effective because it won't only increase her damage, but it will also increase the damage of the other characters in your team, because of the effect of the Viridis Envenerer artifact set, which shreds resistance of any element you swirl by 40%, which is a lot. So I think overall this should be the most effective artifact set on her. However, if you do want to see her just hit big crits, then you should go for Desert Pavilion Chronicle instead. Now, I just gave her Elemental Mastery on every single piece that I could, but aside from that, you want to look for attack on substat and energy recharge. And as long as you can get a bunch of energy recharge on a few of these, and then more importantly, you can get as much attack as you can on the substat, then you'll be good. She's very easy to build as a driver, at least if you're going Elemental Mastery. But I think honestly that covers everything for the build that I think is best for her and the build that I do want to go for her on. So I will be recording this in the span of multiple days probably, so because I was a lazy bum and I didn't get her materials, like I said. It's my fault, but that's okay. You guys will see the complete thing, and yeah, let's just jump into her boss materials first. I'll be putting snippets of me collecting all of them. So enjoy, cuties.
管理します。
難攻不落。剣女盤石。難攻不落。岩山八九。岩山八九。いや。難攻不落。
Real quick, I just realized this is the 6 billionth character that requires whooper flower nectar, whooper flower materials in general. Thank you, Hoya.
剣女盤石。
管理します。灼熱閃光輝くドリフト最高波が来たよヒュー波が来たよ 握手握手
And we're back. I finally managed to research level 90. It didn't take that long actually, just a couple of days, which was pretty nice. And the artifacts that I've already shown is the same I have on her right now. The stats came out very well actually. She has pretty decent attack considering I went full elemental mastery on her. And again, more energy recharge than she even needs. Honestly, decent crit rate for being a full elemental mastery build. And I'm pretty happy with these stats actually, so this is my finalized Lan Yan. She will be Constellation 2 soon thanks to the Lantern Rite event once I feel like grinding that up. And her talents are the only department she's lacking in, and that's because I don't feel like grinding the materials for them. I don't think it's worth it, considering that I'm going to be doing damage with her thanks to elemental mastery anyway. Her talents won't play much into that damage, so this is fine as is. I only leveled up her shield because, well, at least I do want to make her shield stronger. Well, also I'm so tired of getting whooper flower nectar, and like, please tell me if some of you agree, like, why do so many people need this goddamn material? I'm so tired of it. You may or may not hear Shinobu yup in the background. That's because I'm playing in co-op. Hopefully it's not too loud, but yeah, that's the finalized Lan Yan build. Take note of these stats if you want to run a Lan Yan that's similar to mine, that wants to do the same things. And I think we'll go ahead and showcase her in some weekly bosses. See this cutie wreck some shit.
せっかくのチャンスだ。本気を出して俺を楽しませてくれ。投稿も一つの選択だよ。俺は敗者に優しいからね。
Okay, so with the showcases out of the way, you boys and girls may have or may have not noticed, depending on how much attention you were paying, that she is quite effective as a driver. However, she does have some flaws, of course, as a 4-star character who you can get for free. Namely the fact that if you don't focus that much on attack, then her shield can get destroyed quite quickly unless you are able to absorb the element that your enemy is doing attacks with. So, for example, in the Arlecchino fight, Arlecchino's attacks are all pyro based, so making the shield absorb pyro would pretty much make it unbreakable against Arlecchino. That's how effective it would be. However, absorbing a particular element against an enemy is difficult if their enemy isn't themselves made of pyro. Say like a pyro slime, it would be easy, but Arlecchino isn't infused with pyro all the time, so it does get a little more difficult to absorb pyro because you have to actually take a hit. Now, her shield is not useless if she doesn't absorb the element she needs, but you do have to make sure that you don't absorb an element that would become easier to destroy against another element. So, for example, if we had a cryo unit while we were fighting Arlecchino, and we would have absorbed cryo, then Arlecchino would have quite literally destroyed the shield in one shot. So there are a few things to keep in mind. She is quite technical in that sense, however, it's not that complicated to understand. And I think once you get the grasp of her weaknesses, you'll be able to use her quite effectively. This theme I used her with proved to be very effective. I will probably try it out in Abyss, or yeah, in Abyss whenever that rolls around. But yeah, you can kind of make her shield stronger by giving her a weapon with attack. But again, I do think it's worth giving her this weapon if you don't have her at C6, just because it's so hard to keep a proper uptime on her shield without. But I think that about covers everything for Lan Yan. Overall, I think she's very cute. She's very silly, which are the things I look for the most in a character. Their personality and appearance is what drives me to get a character the most. So she passes in that regard, and in the battlefield she's also quite effective. Well, obviously she's not as good as some of the broken 4 stars or as a lot of 5 stars. She's still competent and she get the job done. So if you got her during your long turn right, then know that you have a pretty good character in your hands. But that was all. I hope you boys and girls, you cuties, found this video enjoyable or even useful. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, cuties.